Good morning. My name is Greg Pendy. I'm an analyst here at Sidoti. And this morning, we're very happy to have TOWNSQUARE Media with us, sharing their story. We'll try to get to as many questions at the end of the presentation. Feel free to put any questions you might have in the chat box. So with no further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Bill.
Good morning. Thank you so much. I'm Bill Wilson, CEO of TOWNSQUARE. Appreciate you taking the next 30 minutes to hear more about the TOWNSQUARE story. I'm joined by Stu Rosenstein, our co-founder and chief financial officer, as well as Claire Yenike, head of investor relations and M&A for TOWNSQUARE. Had some really productive meetings yesterday, so looking forward to sharing our story with you this morning. I'll do probably about 15 minutes of prepared remarks, go through our investor deck. So if you have our investor deck, these slides you could flip along with. And then we'll open it up to any and all questions that you may have. So I think really important to start just to recognize that TOWNSQUARE is a very unique and differentiated strategy and story because we focus on markets outside the top 50 markets in the United States, where we believe we have an outsized competitive advantage. And we really started, the thesis of the company was to take traditional broadcast assets in the radio space to transform the company to be a digital first company with the primary growth drivers and revenue and profits being digital over time. And happy to share this morning that we've made tremendous progress over the last 10 years in doing so. A couple key stats before we get into the overall picture is on a trailing 12-month basis, we have about $400 million in top line revenue, $95 million in EBITDA. Really important to recognize that at this point in time, our first half of the year revenue is 47% digital. And I'm going to share in a minute where that's come from, where that's going most importantly. We just announced our Q2 2021 results, and I'm happy to share that we were very close to Q2 2019 revenue and actually had our best quarter ever in terms of all-time high EBITDA, beating Q2 2019, which had been the previous high. We reach almost 60 million people online through our digital properties and mobile apps. And we reach around 11 million people through our radio broadcast on a weekly basis. You can see the stats on the left side, which really speaks to the fact that we're focused importantly on markets outside the top 50. We believe there's a real competitive advantage in these markets. There's definitely a greater need for local content as newspapers as well as television stations and others have receded. No one's come in to fill that void, and we have taken advantage of that and filled that void. And there's also a lot weaker digital competition in terms of selling solutions to SMBs in these markets. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Let me give you a quick glance of our segments. This is our reporting segments. There's really two primary segments, and then the third being live events, which is really more of a profitable marketing arm of the company at this point. We do advertising. Our advertising revenue on a 12-month trailing basis, as you can see at the top of this slide, is $323 million. That's comprised of two components: traditional broadcast radio, which is roughly $200 million in revenue, and then digital advertising, which is just over $100 million in revenue on a trailing 12-month basis and growing double digits, which I'll share with you in a little bit as well. In addition to our advertising component, one of the hidden gems in the company and one of the things that's attracting the most attention, at least yesterday in this conference and as we talk to investors, we have a digital subscription business building and hosting SMBs websites. So if you're familiar with a GoDaddy, a Wix, those types of self-serve platforms, this platform is high touch. So we're actually dealing with customers on a one-to-one basis. It's a recurring monthly subscription business. So we have, as you can see, almost 25,000 subscribers. They're being charged every month on their credit card an average of $300. This business has been growing very consistently for us, roughly 10 million a year top line, 3 million a year bottom line. On a trailing 12-month basis, you can see on this slide, 76 million in revenue at a 31% profit margin. And we just reported in Q2 record number of net subscribers at all-time high. And as I opened in the beginning, live events is a very small part of our company. In a normal year pre-COVID, it's less than 5% of our revenue, less than 5% of our profit. So in 2019, it was $16 million in revenue and $3.5 million in profit. Obviously with COVID, you could see on a trailing 12-month basis, it's $1 million. But the way I would think about our live event business is it allows us to market our own local brands, our own local content, our own local websites on site in front of the community. And it also allows our salespeople, we have roughly 400 salespeople in our local markets, and it gives them the opportunity to present activation opportunities to SMBs, which they find quite attractive. So it's a small piece of our business from a financial standpoint, but a highly strategic one in the local markets. Probably the most important thing to understand about our company is we're a digital first company, and we back that up with the financial results. So if you look on the right side of the screen, you'll see we've grown our digital revenue quite substantially over pretty much every year for the last 10 years. But looking back to 2017, you could see we had less than 100 million of digital revenue. And this year, you'll see we expect $190 million. So we've added over $90 million of digital revenue in essence, 4 years. You can see it's highly profitable. Our digital revenue is also throwing off about 30% margin, so incredibly profitable for us. If most of the people who are attracted to the company today are attracted to the company because of our digital growth and the differentiation and the unique solutions that we have for our markets. But for some of you who may be familiar with other broadcasters, you can see on the bottom left-hand side of this slide, TOWNSQUARE has, as I noted before, almost half of our revenue being digital. The other major app scale players who are primarily focused on the large top 20 cities in the US have less than 25% of their revenue being digital. And that includes all of the acquisitions they've done in the podcasting space and other space. I should probably note that all of our digital revenue is organic. We have a tremendous asset in our core engineering team and product team, and they've built all of our digital products in-house. And we've built this business, as you can see on the graph on the right, all organically to $190 million. We've said publicly that within 3 years, we will be at $250 million of digital revenue. And based on this, hopefully you can see that is a very conservative estimate for us. There's 3 components of our digital revenue that I want to share with you today. They're made up of the digital subscription business that I just referred to. So I'm going to start there. This is TOWNSQUARE Interactive. What this is we are going to an SMB and we're letting them know that for $300 a month on average, we will handle all of their digital presence online. We'll host their website. We build their website. Building their website means we do all of the photography, all of the design, all of the copywriting. We do all reputation management. So if anybody mentions that SMB online, we handle how to correspond with the reviews. We set up all their social platforms. So if they want to be on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, we set that up for them. We not only set it up for them, we actually do all the posting for them if they'd like. We create the content on their behalf to post to Facebook or Instagram. So it's a very robust solution for $300 a month. Importantly, the other thing we do is we guarantee placement on the first page of Google for a minimum of 5 keywords. So if you're an SMB, one of the greatest values we're providing you is organic traffic. So one of the things we'll say to a customer is, what's the value of a new customer for you? For every incremental customer, how much annual value is that? And then we can demonstrate for the money they're providing us on a monthly basis, they're getting a tremendous return in terms of incremental customers that we're driving them. So you could see on the right-hand side how nice this business has grown consistently year after year, on average $10 million top line, $3 million bottom line. And this is actually accelerated during the pandemic. You're probably familiar with during the pandemic, I think a lot of small businesses recognized they couldn't rely on Facebook and they really needed to communicate to their customer base that now instead of in-person classes, they're now doing virtual fitness classes or virtual yoga classes. Same thing with restaurants where they may not have been able to be open at full capacity. They started doing curbside pickup, or a lot of restaurants started doing delivery that never did delivery. So controlling their own website and controlling that communication became really, really important and apparent over the last 18 months. And we've really benefited from that. We've seen an acceleration, as I noted at the beginning of this presentation. We had the record number of net adds in Q2. We also showed 20% growth year over year, but this is really a consistent performer. And we have said that this business will be $100 million within 2 to 3 years. And our expectation is probably by the end of 2022, we'll be on $1 million run rate, if not close to $100 million next year. So important to know here, we have 2 sales channels for TOWNSQUARE Interactive. We utilize our 400 local sellers in our radio markets, where we have built a Charlotte-based inside sales team of 200 people. As you can see on the top left-hand side of the screen, our headquarters for TOWNSQUARE Interactive are in Charlotte. We have over 600 employees there. We started with 3 in 2012 organically, so we've continually grown and scaled. Today, almost 60% of our clients are outside of our local market footprint. So we've shown a great ability to call into markets and sell this solution across the US, but importantly, outside the top 50 markets. So look forward to understanding and learning more about this business as we go. I wanted to share you the total addressable market for TOWNSQUARE Interactive. So if you look at the total US, there's almost a little over 28 million businesses nationwide. We focus exclusively on markets outside the top 50. So that's a little over 11.5 million businesses. We then, based on our experience since 2012, focus on do a few filters, which would be companies with less than 20 employees, and then companies with revenue less than 5 million. And then we exclude certain verticals that we know are not ideal for this solution, which would be auto dealers, realtors, banks. And we get to a total addressable target market, like literally the perfect customer for us in TOWNSQUARE Interactive is just under 9 million. 1 million of those customers are in our local market footprint where we have radio stations. And then obviously 8 million sit outside of that. And today we're approaching 60% of our clients outside of our market. So the addressable market here is 32 billion, and we're just under 100 million in revenue. So clearly a lot of white space, a lot of greenfield. And to that end, we just announced that we're opening a second West Coast location for TOWNSQUARE Interactive in the first half of 2022 to accelerate and the investment in this business. So really, really bullish on this part of our business. The other key component, the second component of the 3 of our digital revenue growth and digital solutions for SMBs is TOWNSQUARE Ignite. This is literally the fastest growing solution in our company. It's providing digital programmatic solutions for SMBs. We sell this product today only through our local sales team. We're beginning testing, selling it through our inside Charlotte team, which is showing very good signs in the test that we'll be able to do that, just like we did with TOWNSQUARE Interactive. But primarily to date, we have been selling this in our markets only. It's a little over $50 million, approaching $60 million in top line revenue at roughly a 30% margin. What this is it's really a digital agency is probably the best way to think about it. It's creating the right message for the client, consulting with them, understanding what the right marketing and advertising message would be, creating the actual advertisement, and then serving that advertisement to the right person at the right time across all platforms. So we'll go to a client, say a jewelry store in Tyler, Texas, ask them who their ideal customer is. They will define their ideal male customer, their ideal female customer. That'll include age, household income, interest, location, all of those things. We'll then serve that ad across the internet. That could be on foxnews.com, that could be on ESPN, that could be on Bleacher Report, that's within apps, that's including OTT, which is one of the fastest growing segments of programmatic advertising. So over the top television, we're serving, in essence, television ads through connected TVs for many of our clients. We're also serving social ads on TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of those type of platforms. So really, really quite a competitive differentiator for us in markets outside the top 50. If you're in New York, LA, Chicago, there's digital agencies that do a great job. In our markets, we have an outsized advantage because we're integrated with literally 1,000 exchanges providing inventory. So for all intents and purposes, we see all the inventory on the internet and then can serve the right ad at the right time, but importantly, optimize to performance and then provide very robust insights and reporting that not only help drive greater ROI on the digital advertising, but for many of our clients also influence other advertising that they do. So they learn from this and then also apply that to if they're doing advertising in print or direct mail and things of that nature. So a really robust and fastest growing part of our company is TOWNSQUARE Ignite. The third and last component of our digital advertising growth that will get us to $190 million of digital revenue this year is monetizing our owned and operated properties. So on the bottom right of the screen, you'll see 10 years ago, we had roughly 1 million consumers, 1 million people coming to our websites and apps on a monthly basis. Today, that's roughly 60 million people. So we've shown an amazing ability to build communities online. We've in essence become the local newspaper, the local timeout of the communities. As newspapers have retrenched in these markets that we're in, we've come in to fill the void, as I mentioned before. All of this is built in-house. It's our own content management system. It's our own ad stack technology. We literally produce 30,000 pieces of local content on a monthly basis. We are one of the biggest producers of local content in the United States. And we've shown a great propensity, unlike some in the newspaper space, to build a thriving digital business with great margins. This business, as you can see on the top right, on a trailing 12-month basis, is $45 million in revenue at greater than a 30% margin and growing double digits every year. Real competitive advantage in our marketplace. And if you're not familiar with our local sites, as a follow-up, I would encourage you to either download some of the apps, which are all integrated into Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So when you get in the car, everybody plugs their phone in just to get a charge. And if you have a connected car, which the majority of Americans do at this point, the dashboard becomes the screen of your phone. So in essence, we've got great distribution directly into the dashboard through our mobile apps, which is quite impressive. We're also one of the largest multi-channel networks on YouTube with over 3.5 billion lifetime views. So I think we've shown a great propensity to create content across all platforms, from broadcast radio to our owned and operated websites to social to video. We also have a first-party data initiative. So for some of you who may be reading in the press about cookies going away in the future and third-party data, we have over 15 million profiles in our local markets. I believe we have more information about the local communities based on our data management platform of collecting first-party data than anybody else does in the community, which means as a local business, if you want to reach the right consumer and advertise to your target audience, nobody can do it better than TOWNSQUARE Media in our 67 local markets. Radio for us has really been a Trojan horse. The whole thesis of the company since 2010 was to take a traditional medium of broadcast radio and transform and utilize that asset to build a digital company. Prior to coming to TOWNSQUARE, I was the president of AOL Media for 10 years. So I had a lot of experience in building digital content, building digital engagement, building digital audiences, and then a great opportunity to monetize that. So what you'll see in terms of radio here is it's very different than large market radio. One of the challenges with large market radio, meaning top 20, top 50 markets, is a lot of people listen, but time spent listening has been declining every year for the last 5 years. That's based on competition of Netflix, Spotify, anything that's competing for people's time, like TikTok. For TOWNSQUARE, based on the strength of our brands and based on the local content we're providing, and based on the dynamic I described before, where TVs are cutting back on local content, newspapers are cutting back on local content, we are truly a trusted source for news and information and entertainment in our local markets. As a result, not only have we gone from 1 million unique visitors online to 60 million, but importantly for our radio business, our time spent listening is incredibly stable. So unlike the industry, which has seen a decline every year for 5 years, our time spent listening is rock solid, which has also allowed us to keep our revenue extremely stable in the broadcast space. So prior to COVID, our listening was stable and our broadcast revenue was stable. And on a trailing 12-month basis, you can see on the top right of this slide, that was roughly $200 million in broadcast revenue, ex-political, 322 radio stations. We are at TOWNSQUARE the only at-scale provider servicing medium and small market America. And we love it. We're differentiated and it's outsized competitive advantage. So much so that you can see on the right, the last stat that I'll call out here is large market radio, greatest market share of listenership would be 20%. Meaning if you have 6 radio stations in LA, New York, Chicago, Miami, at best you would reach 20% of the adult population. On average at TOWNSQUARE, in every one of the markets we operate in our 67 markets, we reach 50%, 1 in 2 of every adults in the market, which is extremely powerful when you sit down with a business and say, hey, over our AM/FM broadcast, you can reach 1 in 2 adults in this community. For top of the funnel brand awareness, there's no better medium than radio. It's the #1 reach medium in the US. It overtook television over the last 3 years. So it's extremely powerful from a reach perspective and a brand awareness. And then we layer in all of our digital solutions And we really have the most comprehensive solution set to help local businesses grow their business. That's what TOWNSQUARE is all about. And then I'm going to wrap it up and go to questions. If you have questions, that we obviously, if you're familiar with the broadcast space, we have a tremendous amount of free cash flow, very little CapEx. The last thing I'll say is I would encourage you to read our earnings transcripts. If you look at the last 3 years, I've been with the company since 2010 when it was formed. I started as the Chief Digital Officer. I was honored to move into the CEO role a couple of years ago. And since that time, whenever we've set out an expectation in terms of our guidance, we either meet it or often beat it. So this is just a quick snapshot of what we said in Q1, what we would do in Q2, and literally each and every line that we beat. And I would just call out again that in Q2, we had the highest level of EBITDA in the company's history. And you could see some stats around digital advertising growth, up 40% year over year. TOWNSQUARE Interactive up 20% year over year. Just Thrive, I should say 50% digital advertising. So with that, moderator, I will open it up to questions. I know we started a few minutes late. I think we have about 10 minutes for questions. Happy to take any and all.
Absolutely. So the first question, you mentioned earlier in the presentation, time spent listening, and how that's fared in your markets versus national markets. Can you just give us a little bit of color? Have you been changing anything in terms of the amount of advertising that you're doing within an hour period?
So we have not from a AM/FM broadcast. We do a different spot load, commercial load on our streams. You can listen to our streams obviously through our app, through the connected car, through Alexa, through Google Home, all of those things. So we have a different spot load on our streaming stations. But the reason we've been able to have time spent listening being stable where the industry has been declining every year is because of our investment in local content. So we've been hiring local DJs based on the dynamic I described before, where local newspapers have really cut back. These communities, quite honestly, there's a term that's out there called news deserts. They're starving for news and information. Not a lot of companies have the wherewithal with a growing top line revenue to be able to invest. So we've been investing. The other thing we're able to do, unlike other broadcasters, is when we hire a local DJ, they're not only providing great content on air, but they're also producing that 30,000 pieces of local content each month. So we're monetizing them through on-air commercials, but I'm also monetizing that through digital advertising. And no other company I'm aware in our markets can do that. So that gives us the ability to hire a lot more people with a great ROI than the competition would.
Great. And then just on the digital subscription business, can you talk about what your key differentiators are versus, say, a GoDaddy Wix?
Yeah, so the key thing from a GoDaddy or Wix, they're primarily self-serve. They have 1-800 customer service. So one thing is we have high touch customer service, even though we're able to operate this at 30% margins. If you are a customer, Claire is your customer service rep, Claire's boss is Stu, and you have that one-to-one connection, literally somebody calling you every month, which is kind of, oxymoron for a subscription business. Usually once you have your credit card, you want them to forget that we're actually charging them. We have the exact opposite approach. We want to show our value every month and reach out. Probably the biggest differentiator vis-a-vis a Wix or a GoDaddy or any other provider for that matter is the guaranteeing of local organic traffic. So I'll say to that jewelry store, hey, what's a new customer worth to you on an annual basis? Maybe they'll say $600. I'll say, hey, if I can drive 5 new customers every month to your website that convert to actual customers, that value to you would be therefore $3,000. If I charge you $300 a month, does that sound like a good value exchange to you? So we in essence say, hey, for $300, we're going to give you $3,000 of customers every single month. And we back that up with results and reporting. And the business has the lowest churn rate today than it's ever had. So we've really been able to thrive in driving great results for SMBs at a very, very attractive price. And the only reason we could do that vis-a-vis a competition is based on our national scale. Based on that, we're selling this, with 25,000 clients and growing. So that's how we're able to do that.
Okay, great. And can you kind of frame where that is in your 250 digital target, where the digital subscription business stands in terms of maybe how much of the contribution that is in terms of maybe the top line and EBITDA perhaps?
Sure, of course. So on a trailing 12 month, it's 76 million top line, and it's 21 million plus in profit. So we've been operating at a 30% margin for the last 5 years, on average growing 10 million top line, 3 million bottom line. And we expect at some point in the next 18 months, it'll be at a $100 million run rate on an annualized basis. It's already on it. If you look at, end of Q2 and just annualize that, we're well over 80 million already. So it is growing fastest, it's growing quicker than it ever has. And I think that's based on, as I noted earlier, some of the dynamics that SMBs have recognized during the pandemic, and also recognizing you can't just rely on Facebook, or if you have a Wix site, it's great for your current customers. You can give them a business card or a QR code in your store, but most SMBs, most business owners, they want to attract new clients, right? So we can clearly show to them, hey, you can get new customers by using us, and we can guarantee you results for as little as $300 a month. So it's a great value proposition, great business for us.
Great. And what is the debt to adjusted EBITDA ratio?
Stu, you want to take that?
Sure. So we have $550 million of total debt outstanding. We ended the quarter with $25 million of cash. So today we're net debt of $525. Going forwards, all of our excess free cash flow will be used to invest in our digital business. And at some point when the high yield market corrects itself, we have the ability to go out and purchase up to $65 million a year of our bonds and retire them annually.
Okay, great. And dovetailing on that a little bit, so what is your targeted leverage goal, and what type of acquisitions might you look towards?
So our target leverage is low fours. We were on that path pre-COVID. We were down to, I think, roughly 4.5 times on a net basis at the end of 19. We expect to get into the low floors at the end of next year, if not sooner, but for expectation setting, I would say at the end of next year, we'll be in that range. In terms of M&A, there's really two buckets. There's digital acquisitions we've been evaluating. There's some businesses out there that could be bolt-ons to our TOWNSQUARE Interactive subscription business. And there's also, we've obviously acquired radio stations to build our digital business. And there's an opportunity in the future, particularly sticking to outside the top 50, sticking to strong heritage brands. There's an opportunity also to acquire radio stations in the future, with really the premise being the stable cash flow, stable revenue, driving outsized digital growth over time. So really two buckets of M&A: digital acquisitions, particularly in the subscriber base for TOWNSQUARE Interactive, and then in the radio space as well.
Great. And we have about 2 minutes left. We have one more. How do you compete for hiring digital talent and salespeople? Isn't it a very competitive business?
Definitely. I mean, somebody asked me yesterday, what's your biggest challenge? What do you spend a lot of time thinking about? It's not the competition. We're not arrogant. We definitely monitor the competition, but based on what I described, that we have a very unique and differentiated solution that no company I've seen focusing on the top 50 can bring all of these solutions to bear to help a local business grow and help people in the local community. In terms of the thing I spend the most time in is retaining our best talent and recruiting the best talent. And yes, it's extremely competitive. We're hiring digital experts with 5, 6, 7 years experience in the programmatic space. It's highly, highly competitive. And particularly when you're talking about market sizes that we're operating in, and we obviously offer also hiring in Charlotte, but even inside our markets. But we've shown a great propensity to attract top talent, even moving from larger cities. You've probably been reading the dynamic in the newspapers, but a lot of people moving from large cities to smaller cities. We've been able to attract great talent, and I'm really proud. We do a quarterly employee survey, pulse survey about the culture and what's going well, and continue to monitor that, because my feeling, obviously, it's not like we have any, our secret sauce, our greatest asset of the company is our team members and the solutions they bring to bear, the passion they have for serving their local communities and helping SMBs in the US. So it's highly competitive. We offer not only great salaries and bonuses. One thing we did during the pandemic is for certain employees, like some of our on-air DJs who never had a bonus, we started a bonus. And we have great tiers of promotion based on performance. So I think it's a great place to work, and people are very attracted because, as I said earlier, we're quite differentiated and unique in the solution set when you're focused on these markets outside the top 50. Great.
Well, with that, we're about out of time. I want to thank the management team from TOWNSQUARE Media for being here and sharing their story with us, and to all those who joined. If there's any follow-ups with the management, please, or any interest, just please reach out to our marketing desk and we'll see what we can do. Thank you a lot.
Thank you for joining this morning. Be well, everybody.